Welcome back to the PFC podcast. The views and opinions you are about to hear are the speakers and do not necessarily reflect those of anyone else. Now on to the podcast.
Welcome back to the PFC podcast. This is Dennis, and today I'm with Maria. How are you doing today?
Hello, Dennis. Thanks, I'm fine. It's a big pleasure to be here.
Hey, well, pleasure is definitely mine. If you wouldn't mind, since it's the first time on the podcast, would you do just a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hello, my name is Maria Kravchuk. My call sign is Litha. I'm a combat medic in a medical unit called Hospitallers. And I'm working here since 2022. I've been on several regions. I've been working on case evac, on medevac, on stabilizational points. Actually, I got some experience from different stages of evacuation, and I'd love to share maybe some important information about this. Also, I'm clinical psychologist. I had some experience also working in a psychic hospital. And I don't know, I read, I like write, I write in books, love my cat. Yeah, something like this.
Hey, awesome. So I guess let's jump into some of the cases. Like you mentioned, you've been up and down the front lines. And I think what people really want is just the experiences and in some of the cases, something that they can kind of learn from. So if you could think of some of your cases on either CASEVAC or medevac, that'd be really awesome.
Okay. Actually, I can tell you about different cases from different stages of evacuations, because it really depends where do you do the evacuation and where it happening in which part of the front line, because it's always some special conditions. Maybe I can start from the case in Zaporizhia region. It was in 2023. We had a wreck patient. A man spent 12 hours on position. He had an amputation because he stepped on a mine. Yes, and he had an amputation of right leg near under the knee, and he been on a tourniquet for 12 hours. And there was no possibility to evacuate him quickly because of artillery and drone control of the enemy. So a lot of soldiers like him had to wait for evacuation. A lot of medical vehicles just were blown up when they tried to evacuate people. It was really a horrible place, and Russia don't care if you're medic or you're not. They just destroy all Ukrainians at sea. This man, his name was Leonid. We received him at night because only his crew could evacuate him only when it was dark. He had a massive blood loss. He was nearly unconscious. And as we discovered some time after, he had pneumothorax that was slowly developing. Actually, we checked tourniquet. We made sure that there were no other bleedings and no other dangerous stuff that can kill him. If the amputated leg will not kill him, I'm so sorry for my English. Yes, then we made an IV and made some infusion therapy. We used plasma, and also we used ketamine ketamine infusion, and when we found out that he had pneumothorax, we were in 1 minute away from a hospital, so we just decided not to do anything with it, because it wasn't attention to pneumothorax. It was like controllable and slowly developing condition, and of course it would be better if to deal with it in a sterile place with doctors in operation room, but not in a armored car that is shaken under the artillery artillery duo. Yes. Also, we had really bad roads, and they were so bad that monitors and some medical techniques were just didn't work. Yes, and also patient was so cold that we couldn't check his saturation. Only after maybe 15 minutes of evacuation, it became possible.
Okay. Just one quick question. When you finally had got him at the evacuation site, I guess how far away had his team had to pull him back in order to get you to the evacuation site?
It was nearly 3 or 5 kilometers. It's not very much, but because of drone control, sometimes it can take hours and even days.
So you got him in the evacuation vehicle. Obviously, the traveling down, they're not paved roads and smooth. They're bombed out and rugged roads. So just the vibration alone, your monitors weren't able to work?
Yes. It showed some fake results, and sometimes just like didn't work at all. It's okay when you ride in the city on an ambulance, but when it's a defender on a totally destroyed road, it's just
Yeah, somebody needs to call the city to have that fixed. When you, as far as plasma or blood products, you had mentioned, like how much do you actually carry?
We were it was one bottle of it was 500 milliliters, but we didn't gave it. We had evacuation for only half of an hour, and we didn't give the infusion very fast. So maybe it was nearly 250 milliliters that went to the patient when we gave him to the hospital.
Okay. I guess how much of a response did he get from that half a unit?
He wasn't reacting on our words. He wasn't reacting on pain. He just murmured a little bit something, and he couldn't talk to us. But after we gave him care, he could tell us his name, and we could have a conversation about what happened to him and how does he feel. Yes, so actual infusion and ketamine really helped.
Yeah, no, that's a great response for considering that it's 250 mLs of fluid. He made a big response.
Yeah, but you shouldn't give it too fast because it just can open the bleeding wound.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, you got to keep the balance.
Right. So you took him back. You took him back the stabilization hospital or the main hospital?
It was like something like stabilization hospital. It was something like frontline surgery surgery point. It's not the same as the stabilization point, but
sure. So they're going to stabilize him. They're going to get him more resuscitated.
Yeah.
And then have another evacuation farther back.
Yeah, for sure.
Were you part of that evacuation going farther back, or do you stay and continue going to the front?
No, we went back because we had something like it was like alternation. We had to stay at the place where we received the patient for 12 hours nearly. So we had whole night to work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it took 12 hours to go from the evacuation point from the field to the stabilization hospital,
For
I
this
guess.
patient. Yeah.
For this patient, 12 hours.
Yes. So my team, we were taking him maybe for 30 minutes. But the most hard part was just to leave the front line, just to leave the positions.
So you're just you're in a vehicle, right? So you just have to somehow camouflage yourself to protect yourself from those drones or artillery.
Yeah. Actually, in this time we just had to work and had to make some masking for our car, and like it was everything we could. Just yes, just to be in some green point under the trees to hide our car and I don't know, listen closely to the sky and yeah.
So as far as drones, we were talking before. What kind of protection do the medical teams use to protect themselves from drones?
Talk. Well, actually, we had some drone detectors that can show you if there are some drones in your area. We had one that called Tsukurok. It's Ukrainian technology. Yes, and also we got some stuff from a radio electronic warfare that they're drawing the drones on their waves. They're just like, yeah.
And then you also mentioned some of your guys carry shotguns. Are these how many people have shotguns? Like just one guy responsible for that, or do you have multiple?
Excuse me, could you repeat, please?
Sure. You mentioned shotguns, like weapons that the soldiers carry. How many people carry them?
Well, actually, usually we have one gun on the team. We usually riding with, yeah, Remington. And yes, usually you gotta have really good driver because sometimes everything you can do is ride as fast as you can. Um, because jammers are not very effective every time.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, I imagine with the fiber optic, the cable controlled
Yes,
drones as well.
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely a successful case in that situation. Are there any others, like you had mentioned, things like drones spraying like chemical weapons, white phosphorus, nerve agents, it sounds like. So I guess what things have you seen?
Well, actually, we had some patients in Zaporizhia region. We evacuated guys who were going through the chemical attack. Also, I had a lot of patients and stabilization point at Liman of Donetsk Oblast. Donetsk region. Guys just were like it was a drone attack, and a drone spread, and the drone had a bomb with some irritating gas, and we received patients with poisoning of some unknown substation. Yeah, and also there were some cases of phosphor. But the most often maybe it's irritating gas because it's the easiest. I don't know. They got a lot of this stuff.
Yeah,
And
I'm sure they do.
yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to get everybody to get up and run, so they can hurt them, right? So, I guess how is this a frequent tactic that they're using?
Yeah, it's we had problems with chemical weapons maybe in every place of the front line, and also some friends thought about cases of using of neuroparalytic gases, neuroparalytic substances in Mariupol.
I guess how do you guys respond differently than any other time, or do you just go fast, pick them up, and get out of there as quick as you can? Do you bring like protection for yourself?
Yeah, we got some gas masks. We got equipment. We got atropine. So it's just something like this. It's a minimum.
Sure, bare minimum. And then obviously, like we mentioned, the evacuations can be a long time. So how, I guess, when you're preparing to go out, you can probably expect it's going to be a long evacuation. How does that adjust?
Yes.
How do you adjust to have the supplies to last that long?
Actually, every time we are going on some points of the front line and we start to communicate with unit, we usually speak to the medics to just know the situation. Usually, when we got some information about wounded people, we trying to receive as much as possible about tactical information. So, like, are there drones? Is there an artillery attack or something like this? Once we had to wait almost a whole night in the Donetsk region just to take six people who were attacked on their own positions. And usually we get some supplies in our car. It's maybe it. I'm sorry. Okay, it's calculated on 10 patients, for example. We got some infusions, we got some systems, and usually it's more than enough if you got to bring the person. Also, we got medical bags that got some supplies of medicaments, and it's it was okay for maybe 2 or 3 hours evacuation. It was enough. Yeah, and
So are there any other specific cases that you'd like to talk about?
well, actually, yes. I remember the case from stabilization point. And once again, it's about drones because patient couldn't leave the position more than for more than 2 weeks. He had some wounds. He were like red. I mean, yes, he was red. He was heart patient, and he received some more wounds when he was waiting for evacuation. We received him. He had horrible gangrene with maggots and all this shit. And also, like, he had dry gangrene on his hands. And it's just he was only in 7 kilometers from our stabilizational point. And it's just because that shelling was so strong that nobody could evacuate him in time. And as I remember, our stabilization point received near 150 people a day. But it was a couple of weeks in November when we had just no patients because evacuation couldn't happen just because of drones and about shelling.
I mean, do the medics in the field, do they carry antibiotics?
Yeah. And yeah, for sure. Also, we got antibiotics in our pill packs, like moxifloxacin. We got antibiotics. We are given antibiotics in medevac and in stabilization point. But because of whole chaos, and because of sometimes we got somebody, for example, could forget to write down medicals that he gave to the patient, and we have a real big problem with antibiotic tolerance. Resistance, I mean, antibiotic resistance. So now we are changing the protocols, civil and war protocols, because, for example, some antibiotics of the newer generations, like ceftriaxone, a lot of people just are resistant for it. And now we're using antibiotics from the previous generations because they are working better. Yes, and sometimes, for example, my friends that were on Kherson, okay, in Krinky, and they were just dropping antibiotics by drones because injured couldn't go through the Dnipro River, and sometimes they're also waited for evacuation for too long.
Is that pretty common to resupply with drones?
Yeah, and somebody resupplying with food, with medicals, with water. Drones are everywhere. It's really common stuff. Even some evacuations are getting by drones that move in on Earth, like a car. And yeah, now it's a practice. It's new, but it's good.
Are they helpful? Are those the ground drones for evacuation? Are they working out well? Is it?
Yeah, people staying alive, so it's cool. Of course, they can defend you fully from air drones, but it's much better than nothing, and also it makes less risks for an evacuational team because a lot of medics just die and trying to evacuate the people.
Right, absolutely. So, I guess what kind of advice would you give somebody? They're coming to Ukraine to help, right? And they want to be on the front lines to help. What advice would you give as far as medical skills to have, uh, how do you learn how to survive on that battlefield? I mean, you've done it for about 4 years now, so obviously you figured something out.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, first of all, you got to know how to help yourself. You must know how to stop the bleeding. You got to know basic protocols because it can just save your life. At least you should have an ASM course. It's a bare minimum. Yes. You got to have your medical supplies personal. And also, what is really helpful is to be with your people, to be with people that for who you can fully trust. Yes, and
Absolutely.
yeah, it's a big, great thing when you're working with team in a team with people who you can fully trust, and you know that if something happens, they won't just run away and leave you. And who are ready, I don't know, to go and die with you. And also, really great stuff is absolutely stupid and dumb jokes, Marlboro and energetic drinks. Yes, but not too much energetical drinks because sometimes we have some deaths happened because of because of energetics. It's really stupid to go to the war and die from energy drink. Um,
Yeah, the
yeah,
caffeine
but in
overdose.
fact, what?
Caffeine overdose.
Yeah, just very simple and very dumb.
Yeah.
Just a heart
Another
attack
one.
and
Yeah. Another aspect I don't think gets talked about nearly as much as it probably should is just the psychological aspects of such an extended war, full-scale war. You mentioned you're also a clinical psychiatrist, so I guess for you, I'm sure you've seen it, the PTSDs, the traumatic brain injuries, the difficulties from a psychological aspect so far. Even if the war stopped tomorrow, there's still going to be injuries that are going to have to be dealt with for probably decades. I guess,
yeah.
what do you think about that?
It's yeah, you're right. Because psychological injuries we have are I don't know that something could ever fix it. Like, okay, a lot of people have PTSD, kids have PTSD, animals have PTSD. You just can take a look on an animal that was evacuated from the front line. Also, after heart injuries, a lot of people struggling with because of addictions. Because when you got to be for about a year on a very strong painkillers, it's very hard to go through this and get rid of, for example, opioid addiction. Um, yeah. Also, civils are very sensitive also for different horrible horrible events. We got a lot of cases of raping and a lot of cases of just murdering of civils, like in Bucha or in Mariupol, like in Irpin and other. And this war is really unique for now. And for example, in my university, we learned some stuff about PTSD and some stuff about medical care from For example, wars in Vietnam or in Iraq, but this war is completely different. And obstacles different, and enemy is different, and weapons are different, and the context is absolutely different. So a lot of psychologists, a lot of doctors, they are just learning from the real cases in the real time, because we got no like no books, and you just will have nobody that can say you what to do, how to deal with some states. Yeah. And because of the lack of the people, a lot of guys just uh, keep being in the battlefield on antidepressants, on some medicals. They have PTSD, they have shell shock, but they are just keep going on. They can't go home because we've got no people, and we don't want to be under occupation.
No, that absolutely makes sense. I mean, I guess with such a massive problem, what would Ukraine need to do in order to just get back to a functioning country again?
Um, well, I'm not a
In your
specialist, but
opinion.
oh man, in my opinion, I guess that other countries must help us as much as they can, because it's very naive to think that Russia will stop on Ukraine, because Russia will want Poland, will want Lithuania, and other countries. So help with weapons, help with military trainings, and help with people, with soldiers, with yeah, it would be the best, because somebody want to help only to orphans or only to refugees, like they thinking that give some help to the soldiers. It's not very nice, and unethical, but this thing is just very necessary. Yeah. And yeah, and also it's banning banning Russia from all the culture platforms, because they get really strong propaganda, and it's horrible, actually.
Yeah, it is horrible, and it's been definitely going on way too long. So I guess, Maria, when it comes to evacuation or just life as a soldier for so long, I guess, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to put out there?
Well, actually, yes. Oh, and also about psychology, I remember one more case when we had really long evacuation for 9 hours, and we had an empathy. And all we had just ketamine with no midazolam. And I was worrying if guy will take ketamine normally. I mean, I was worried that he can go to psychosis or something like this. And I used some skills from ketamine assistance therapy that I learned actually from American navies. They paid some courses, and it was really helpful, because I could psychologically stabilize that guy. Uh,
So what did you do?
I've been talking to him like, have you ever had some drugs experience? He said, no, I've never been. I said, okay. So now I got to give you some strong medicine. It can change your conscience, and I need you to imagine you're in a very nice place. You can think about people you really love, about you can put on your headphones and listen to music. Um, you can think about really safe place that you love very much, and like I made him feel good, and we avoided a horrible bad trip actually, because yeah, it worked really good. We eased the pain, and he was absolutely calm, and he felt okay. Yeah.
No, that's great. That's great.
Okay. As a conclusion, I can say that actually we really need help of the world, because this war won't stop easily. And a lot of experiences of our medics with blood transfusion, with um, working with drones, air drones or earth drones, never mind. It can be really important for other countries. Yes, and you just need to get ready to the war where there are no rules and no Geneva Conventions, um, and where front hospitals can be bombed, and evacuational cars can be bombed. Just like you got to be ready for absolutely I don't know, unfair and horrible uh, conditions. Maybe something like this.
Well, awesome, Maria. I really appreciate you coming on and talking about your experiences.
Excuse me again. Could you repeat?
I said, thank you again for coming on and talking about your experiences.
Yeah, thank you.
That's it for today's podcast. Make sure to go to our website, www.prolongedfieldcare.org. Check out our free downloads and a ton of other helpful information. Grab a bag of our fresh roasted PFC coffee, links in the description below, and stay on the bleeding edge of combat and austere medicine. This is Dennis for the PFC podcast. Out.